Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome inside the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven. I am your host, and we are here for a Saturday Q&A. Hopefully, you are enjoying the weekend, staying cool. It's a brisk 109 today in Fresno, California. So hopefully, wherever you are, it's not as hot as it is here. Joining me today are my guys, Tyler and Alex. Tyler, we'll start with you, man. How are you doing today?
Well, Steven, I really hope you like your job. It seems like you love it, and Brooke loves her job because 109 degrees at 10 o'clock in the morning does not sound fun to me.
It's not 109 degrees right now. It will be 109 degrees later today, to be clear. But I think right now it's like 90 degrees already. So
sweet.
Yeah, like I said last week, we were down in Newport. I was just down there for the weekend because I had to get back and work. Brooke and her family were there for the whole week. And I texted her on Wednesday and I was like, are you sure you want to come back? Because it's like 65 degrees in Newport right now and it's 104 in Fresno. But obviously she had to come back. So it is what it is. Alex, what's up, man? How are you doing today?
Doing good. I've been back on running this week and my phone says currently it feels like 106 degrees outside. So I'm a shade behind Steven, but there's no shade. It's really hot.
Yeah, really hot and really humid in Florida as opposed to Fresno, where it's very dry. So Renee says it's 112 and humid in Arizona, which Arizona is another level. Arizona and Las Vegas, man, you never lived there.
Lots of prayers.
Yeah, 109 is about as hot as it gets here in Fresno, and usually it's only for like a week in July that we get this kind of heat. So. But here's what it is. So, like I said, we do have a Q&A plan today. So if you do have any questions, let us know in the chat. We do, unfortunately, have to talk about some coaching rumors first and foremost. So in case you missed it, Mr. Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald did a story earlier this week on Sean Payton, who, of course, is retired in air quotes, working for Fox this year, that he would potentially be interested in coaching the Cowboys, the Chargers, or the Dolphins, hypothetically in a year, couple years, whatever it is, if he decided to come out of retirement and if those coaching positions became available. Mr. Barry Jackson cited specifically that Sean Payton was interested in warmer weather, working with an established star quarterback and an established roster that is ready for contention. So, I know a lot of people had some very strong feelings about these potential rumors of Sean Payton. So, Alex, we'll start with you. Kevin James would be cheaper, which, side note, that movie is actually really funny if you haven't ever seen it.
Watched it.
But, Alex, what are your thoughts here as you're reacting to Sean Payton potentially coaching the Chargers one day?
One thing, if Sean Payton is ever hired as coach of the Chargers, I think like the draft day review, we all have to watch it and then do like a 50-minute review on the Kevin James Netflix movie on Sean Payton.
I'm down.
It's an interesting one just because I think the large perception has been the Cowboys like the whole time. But, there's a world where the Cowboys overperform, some of the expectations, and maybe they get lucky in the playoffs and Mike McCarthy buys himself another year there. I don't know how much I buy that because they're the Cowboys and they do what they do. Right. But at the same time, you have the Dolphins and the Chargers. Not sure I would say that Dolphins roster, given the quarterback situation right now, is ready to compete right now. But the Sean Payton rumor would kind of line up there with the certain Tom Brady rumor. That we've heard for large portions of this offseason. This is probably his last year in Tampa, maybe the last year of his career, but they could team up down there as well. I guess really where this is interesting for me, because who knows if Sean Payton comes to the Chargers, but this really comes to me in the sense of what Brandon Staley's job security is, right? I think we all are pro Staley, and most of Chargers Twitter is as well, to the point where in July I hear, well, even if we go 5-12, I still want Staley as the head coach, which is a very popular thing to say in July. But I think that if the Chargers, are in this higher stakes position, they're in this stadium in LA, they have Justin Herbert as their quarterback. If the Chargers do miss the playoffs again and have a largely healthy team, I think that there's a pretty decent chance in that scenario that Brandon Staley is fired. We don't talk about it very much. Again, this is the same franchise that did fire Marty Schottenheimer after a 14-2 2006 season after the Marlon McCree game. So the expectations are there. And I did get a lot of response on Twitter was like, well, if Anthony Lynn got 4 years, then Brandon Staley should too. But I would only contrast that and say that the situations themselves are different because Brandon Staley is
very different states of the franchise.
Anthony Lynn was brought in during this transition period. Brandon Staley brought in during this time where you have Justin Herbert and you're expected to, if not make the Super Bowl, make the playoffs, contend in some certain way right now. And if there's another 9-8, 10-7 season and they're bouncing around, like, I don't think it's impossible that they move on from Brandon Staley in that scenario. And then, if you can theoretically, there's a large debate of whether you would consider Sean Payton an upgrade. But if Sean Payton is out there and he's a Hall of Fame coach, I don't see why they wouldn't go for it. I don't think he would be their, the Chargers would be his first destination per se. But if Brandon Staley is fired and does underperform, then I don't think it's a crazy rumor by any means. Granted, I think this is all for naught anyway, because I do think the Chargers will make the playoffs, and I do think Brandon Staley will still be coach of this team. But it's an interesting side note nonetheless.
Yeah, like you said, it's not going to happen, and then there's several reasons why, but it is still worth discussing, I suppose. You talk about Brandon Staley, it's so tough because his job seems very secure, and this coach has more, at least defensive, but I think overall roster control than a coach that I've seen in my short fandom, but still, like since the Telesco era, nothing like this I've seen in the McCoy era, the Lynn era. So they're really tied into Brandon Staley. I mean, at least until Herbert's contract is up, I would think. But then again, like you talked about, if they miss the postseason, and I don't think they will, but if they do, and let's assume that Herbert is healthy and they didn't miss the postseason because he got an ACL injury or something, why keep Brandon Staley either? Like, they're very much tied into him, and I do think that they would stick with him. But if he misses the postseason, why would you keep him around? What has he proven so far? Honestly. Now, again, I think they're going to be great. I think he's the right coach. I believe in him. But at the same time, what has he proven? He's brought in to fix the defense side of the ball. Technically, that hasn't been done yet. Yes, the pieces are supposedly there, but I do have to see it. We're still worried about the personnel decisions. They did miss the postseason. You could argue about some fourth down decisions. That doesn't really bother me as much, but he hasn't really proven himself yet. Technically, as far as things are going, with the main coaches on this roster, Joe Lombardi's been the better coach, I suppose, considering his job. But still, I think they stick with Brandon Staley. It really comes down to, with me, it seems that I'm not really super familiar with this, but the Chargers would have to trade for Sean Payton. It's not like they release him and he's a free agent or something. This would be like a John Gruden situation, which not quite the same, because I don't think, because Gruden was coaching and then he was traded. Payton is currently, retired or whatever. He's going to broadcast and whatnot. But that Gruden trade took up 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, and $8 million. I assume that would be more for someone like Sean Payton, who, I think Gruden was hotter at that time than Payton is right now, but Payton has won a Super Bowl. And so I think a team that wants him will have to give up either something similar or more, and the Chargers just don't even have that. Like, if Miami wants Payton, they do have more ammo to do that. Not a better team. It's not as attractive, but they do have the 2 first-round picks next year. The Chargers have 1, and hey, the Chargers will be picking 32nd anyway. So, I think they're good with Staley. I love Brandon Staley right now. I think they're fine with him, but I also think it's a moot point because they just will not have the ammo to trade for him.
Yeah. So first and foremost, from a Staley perspective, right? Like, I think we're all on the same page in our expectations for this year, our belief in him. I think for me, for him to get into like fireball territory, I think I would have to know more about why don't they make the playoffs. Like, if they didn't make the playoffs because the defense was still a kind of a disaster, then I think that's something that you have that discussion. But if they're 9-8 and they have a top 5 offense and a top 15 defense, and they just happen to catch a few unlucky bounces here and there, I think that's a different conversation for me. I think at that point, then you'd enter year 3 on the hot seat as opposed to firing him after year 2. Whereas, if they're 9-8, offense kind of takes a step back, you see like minimal improvement from the defense, then I think you could potentially start having that conversation. But again, that's not what we expect to happen. If this team's healthy, we do expect, a pretty good sized jump forward. In terms of like the coaching openings, right? Like if all three of these jobs were open, I think if you're tiering them, you would have the Cowboys in tier 1, and then you would have a massive gap between the Dolphins and the Chargers fighting out for tier 2, because I think it's pretty clear that Sean Payton and Jerry Jones are like really good friends at this point. And, reading the Peyton and Breeze book last year from Jeff Duncan, the relationship between Sean Payton and Bill Parcells was such a crucial building block relationship for Peyton as a coach, as a person, as a man, as a father. And so he has a great relationship with Bill Parcells, a great relationship with Jerry Jones. So I think if all three of these jobs were open, like there's no question that he would take the Cowboys job and essentially use the Chargers and Dolphins for leverage to say, hey, pay me more money than those teams can afford, and then we'll talk. So I think that's the conversation that would have to be had again if all three jobs were open at the same time. All three teams are in different stages of their rebuild, right? Like this is year 3 of Mike McCarthy. They just made the playoffs. They just won their division. Year 2 of Brandon Staley, year 1 of Mike McDaniel in Miami. So it's a lot of hypotheticals here, but I think if Dallas is open, like that's where Sean is going, in my opinion.
The only thing I'll say about the Cowboys one that's a little bit weird to me is, although they are great friends, Jerry Jones controls the roster, right? Like I don't think any debate there. Now, whether Jerry Jones would be willing to change that and not have his son as GM, if Sean Payton were to arrive, I don't know. But if Sean Payton does want roster control, I don't know if that's something the Cowboys would offer him, and that as a potential roadblock. Versus, I think the Dolphins, if they do bomb this year and they're just like, all right, let's go get Sean Payton and Tom Brady, that would just be something that they, would be willing to hand over to him faster. And if you talk about, what the Chargers situation could be after this year, let's just, for the sake of argument, assume that they underperform. Then you're probably talking about Telesco getting fired as well, in addition to Staley, and then you're bringing in potentially, so let's say Sean Payton as a GM head coach. Not that always works out either, but so I think it'll be an interesting thing to watch just as far as the season goes. I don't think he ends up being the Chargers head coach, but I do think it shows how desirable the Chargers head coaching job is, as well as how high the pressure is on Brandon Staley. To perform this year. And like Steven said, there are scenarios where the Chargers go 5-12, but Herbert's injured. So you can't just look at the record and say, oh, well, that means Brandon Staley's fired and that means he's safe, right? Much of it depends on the context of the season, the defense, the offense, right? But I do think the pressure is on now for Brandon Staley. And while I think we all view him as safe and not on the hot seat, that can change very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, the Chargers are in a spot where something we were kind of worried about when the Chargers did hire defensive coaches. We're pretty sure at this point that Joe Lombardi is gone. Like he already, interviewed for a job last year. Kevin Koger already interviewed for 2 OC jobs last year. They're both probably gone. Frank Smith is already gone. Like this is kind of the argument for getting an offensive-minded head coach. Again, I think Staley stays, but if you're at a point where they do underperform, and then also Joe Lombardi leaves and Kevin Koger leaves, and who knows, would you rather just work this out with Shane Day as your offensive coordinator and a coach who just went 9-8, or would you rather just blow it all up and start over with someone like Sean Payton? So I think Joe Lombardi is also a factor here.
Joe Lombardi is also a factor in the sense that, he has a relationship
be a recruiter too.
with Sean Payton, and they
no way he's going to stay here and not take a head coach job. No. What's Joe Lombardi's job here then if Sean Payton shows up?
I don't.
Coordinator.
I don't know.
Ronaldo Hill.
Is Joe Lombardi universally viewed as that guy's getting a head coaching job? If
Herbert puts up another top 5 offense,
I think it's very possible. But we've also talked about other offensive coordinators around the league who just never got that billing. Granted, he interviewed with the Texans last year and was supposedly one of their remaining 4 candidates before they hired Lovie Smith, which is a very weird process. But yeah, I don't know. If Sean Payton's here, I think that, there's probably a better chance that you retain Joe Lombardi in the event that Brandon Staley is fired. Again, this is fast forwarding out all so much that it doesn't matter. But I do think the fact that the Chargers have been seen as like a Saints West kind of team, that does kind of lend itself to Sean Payton in some way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about a scenario where the Chargers underperform and Brandon Staley is fired, I mean, you have Joe Lombardi here, you have Brendan Nugent here, you have Chase Daniel here. Like, I think that's an attractive connection start for somebody like Sean Payton. So, I mean, if it's open, like Sean Payton would be a fool not to be interested in this job.
No.
You know, the chance of coaching Justin Herbert, who is somebody that he's always kind of like dreamed of having that kind of quarterback who can do everything that Drew Brees can and also do the things that Drew Brees can. So I think Sean, like, if this job is open, I think Sean Payton would absolutely, you know, consider it, and I think he would be a fool not to.
Yeah, and I do want to slightly bring up character concerns.
Absolutely.
Because you know the Chargers have prided themselves on when Anthony Lynn was head coach, when Mike McCoy was head coach, when all these guys were head coaches, being, you know, a culture-based team. When Brandon Staley's the head coach right now, Sean Payton was the ringleader of Bountygate and got suspended for a year. Which, I mean, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10 Urbans, that's like a 6 or 7. But you know, so we'll see.
That feels a little high. I don't know.
Maybe it's 7 or 8 Urbans. I don't know. It's not as
Urbans.
bad as kicking Josh Lambo in front of everybody, but it's certainly up there. But I do think the Bountygate thing is worth mentioning. Obviously, it was 10 years ago, so maybe there's just it's all water under the bridge now. But we have talked about the Chargers and their, you know, focus on, you know, off the field issues and stuff like that. That would probably be the one roadblock to Sean Payton getting hired, amongst other things. But
yeah, absolutely. You know, we'll see. Again, I'd be pretty surprised if Sean Payton's next coaching job were not the Dallas Cowboys, but we'll see. So we'll jump into the Q&A part of this show today now. So if you do have any questions, make sure and use them. I see we have both of Tyler's parents already representing in the super chat feature, so appreciate them as always. Wanted to start this with this question, from NFL Mike's Corner. He wants to know, where do you guys each think Herbert should be focused on improving this offseason? Already elite, but always improving. Name of the game at QB for long-term success, which is absolutely true. So Justin has kind of said that his focus so far really has been getting more comfortable in, you know, 5 and 7 step drops, play action, kind of mostly his footwork, which again, you know, you can focus on multiple different things, but that's been kind of the constant, which I really appreciate. But Tyler, Alex, where do you guys think, what are some areas of improvement that you would like to see from Justin Herbert in year 3?
It's kind of funny because it leans towards the first start he ever had, against the Chiefs, where he just was missing guys to the boundary. And that's still kind of apparent on film. I haven't been watching Herbert specifically. I've been watching Williams and Allen, but there are just throws to on a corner, on an out, or to the flat where it's like, dude, how did you miss that? And it's once a game sometimes. Some games it's 3 times a game. And you're thinking, wow, they really could have used that. I mean, or even just like something easy, like to the flat with Austin Eckler against the Vikings. Like, he's right there. You just dump it down to him. Granted, there was pressure, but like, get it to him and you have a first down. Instead, they either miss a field goal or kick a field goal. They lose that game, whatever. Like, there's some easy throws that Herbert could still be making. And granted, this almost feels nitpicky because he's so good. But if you were to improve somewhere based on what I've seen, it's just hitting those throws to the boundary, to the sideline. Somehow he could hit the ones that are 60 yards downfield to the sideline, but the ones that are like 10 yards that way to the right, sometimes he just misses them. And I would just love to see more consistency there.
Yeah, I remember specifically, sorry, Alex, to cut you off. I remember specifically the game at Denver. There were like 3 or 4 gimmies that he just sailed or missed. And, you know, I think one of them really cost them points, which obviously didn't have much of an impact as the Vikings game. But I remember it being a bigger problem in that game specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I just would say in general, like Tyler said, I think it's more of the routine stuff. Also, you know, Herbert's kind of mentioned this in some press conferences and at minicamp when it's come to, you know, just being comfortable at the line of scrimmage more so, right? Like when it comes to like just getting a guy to jump off on a false start, right? You know, kind of knowing when to audible, knowing when to do those things. And I think in the second year of a new system, he should be better at doing that. And then, yeah, of course, going into this year, I just think hitting the short, easy stuff, because like Steven said, he can, whatever, through strawberry, through a starship, 60 yards, and suddenly, that throw is fine. I don't remember what the quote was.
That was the Ravens guy, wasn't it?
Something like that. I
Yeah,
don't remember
strawberry through a
exactly.
battleship.
Yeah, the strawberry through battleship. He can, throw that 65 yards and he's fine. It's, the other throws that sometimes could be, troubling for him. Obviously, again, it is kind of nitpicky. I would also say just like abandoning plays almost, right? Kind of in a not letting a play go too long way. Like if it's not going anywhere, right? And kind of knowing when to quit. Of course, some of Justin Herbert's, big plays running out of the pocket against the Steelers, or just waiting like the Guyton throw, just come as a result of waiting. But I do think there are quarterbacks, I think, like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, that just kind of know when to kill the play when it's not going anywhere. That's something Herbert could get a little better at too.
No, that was actually the one that I was going to bring up too, and I think you look at there was the play against the Chiefs where he like sunned Nick Bolton when he was like rolling out, and Nick Bolton was trying to catch him, and Herbert just kind of like kept him at arm's length. Was a lot of fun to watch, but that happened a few times earlier in the season too, and it cost them, right? Like he ended up taking that sack from Micah Parsons when it was like a 20-yard loss, and then I think Vizcaino actually missed the field goal on the next play. So happened against Washington as well, where he was trying to roll out to the left when every pass catcher was to the right, and Donald Parham and Jared Cook were like blocking, and then they were trying to figure out if they had to like leak out, and Justin just like ended up throwing to Cook, and it was like a 2-yard loss or something like that. So
I remember that play.
Wasn't as bad as the one against Parsons, but at some point you just got to throw the ball away, and I think that's something that absolutely Justin can improve on. I'm not asking for him to become Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr in that regard, who just throw the ball away like as soon as they see something they don't like, but just every once in a while would be good to see Justin not necessarily take those bad plays.
Yeah, absolutely.
Saw a couple people talk about this in the chat. So question from Stephen Gillard: which veterans do you think get to skip the preseason this year? Hopefully not
Jerry Tillery.
Hopefully not Jerry Tillery. I think you can confidently say that we won't see Justin, we won't see Rashawn, Corey, Matt Fowler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Derwin James, and JC Jackson, and maybe some other ones.
Yeah, I guess like the toss-up is like Sebastian Joseph Day. Like,
he's
kind of a veteran, but not really. And he's new, but he knows the scheme. So I could see him doing like Abuji played like 10 snaps.
Abuji played a little bit in each
games.
Game,
yeah. So I could see maybe something like that. But hopefully not Jerry Tiller. Doesn't sound like he will. And he should be out there like competing.
Yeah. I saw somebody mention Kyle Vanoy. That's an interesting one because he is learning in the scheme, and he is like a key contributor. But if you're going to head into these preseason games with just Chris Rumph, Jamal Davis, and Emeka Egbule as your pass rushers, I don't know. Like I feel like Kyle Vanoy almost has to play, because Kaiser and Drew each played a little bit as well last year.
Yeah,
so
a good amount.
I would expect Kyle to at least get like a couple series here and there, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you think Kenneth Murray's out there?
I don't think Kenneth Murray's going to be healthy yet at that point, personally.
Jeez. Yeah, well, I think even if he is healthy, they might play it safe with him anyway.
Yeah.
And just go, okay, well,
that's fair.
Wait till week one, effectively. I feel like the cutoff line is probably that, like, obviously you'll see Trey Pipkins and Storm Norton on the field. Like, that'll be a thing. Other than that, you're not going to see Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Austin Eckler, no. I would say Gerald Everett, probably a no, too. I mean, this is a team that played it very conservatively last year in the preseason, rightfully or wrongfully so. Yeah, I don't really see anyone on the offense getting into any significant action aside from the position battles that we already know. This is interesting, but Michael Davis is your CB4. Does he have to play a preseason game? But yeah, I don't know. Probably just because it's not
just from a body standpoint,
yeah, are in front of him. But like, or do they just go full on? We don't care. Just Sear Taylor and D Leonard. You're playing on 50 snaps today. I don't know, but yeah, the Chargers never really did like a dress rehearsal game last year, and it seems like those around the league are kind of like declining in numbers.
Yeah.
So, with them taking out one of the preseason games. So in general, I don't think that the Chargers are going to play anyone significant. Tillery is probably the big change from last year just because of what his role on the team is now compared to what they thought it was going into last year. Other than that, though, I think they're going to play it very conservative again.
Yeah, that's the thing that Staley stole from Sean McVay. So blame Sean if you're mad about it. I always love it when we get non-football questions. I know that we're a football podcast, but Marco Rodriguez, question for Alex: Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad?
I think it's Better Call Saul by like a decent bit at this point. I used to be one of those people in like season 3 or 4 of the show where I was like, it's never going to be Breaking Bad. And then season 4, 5, and 6 happened, and I'm like, oh. Like they sort of did everything they did in Breaking Bad, but it was better and more refined. So I gotta go with Better Call Saul. Breaking Bad also, like as good as it was, had some pretty unlikable characters. Versus I feel like every character in Better Call Saul is likable. Like I would love to watch Breaking Bad, but I'm not sitting through Skyler again. That was annoying. But yeah, I think Better Call Saul is everything they did in Breaking Bad, but better.
It does feel a bit more refined. So I'm a season behind. I haven't watched or like the new half of the newest season or whatever.
Oh, you have to.
Although I do know like one obvious spoiler that happened. I mean, I obviously know that Jimmy survives because I've seen Breaking Bad.
Wait. Do you know the thing that happened in the mid-season finale?
I don't know when it occurred. I just know that he's like, I want you to know it was me, and that sort of part. Okay. So I know that. Maybe not something else. It's tough because I do think I should go rewatch Breaking Bad because I was just younger, and now something like Better Call Saul appeals to me a bit more as that nice slow burn. But I think it's really close. Like I prefer watching Better Call Saul currently more than I did watching Breaking Bad at the time. It's really good. Like they're both really, really good.
I also think the leg up that I give to Better Call Saul is like it's really hard when you know that several of the characters have plot armor, right? Like that obviously Saul survives, that Mike survives, that Gus Fring survives. So that all these people survive. So I think it's much harder to write stories and build tension the way they do, where you're still concerned for that character's safety and what's going to happen to that character, even though they make it out safe. And I think when making a prequel or making something, I think it's harder to make that kind of show than it is Breaking Bad initially. So that I think is also the advantage, just the writing and how much it captivates you. I kind of give that advantage to Saul as well.
Yeah, still great. I mean, either way, Better Call Saul, like just for the first 2-3 seasons about, Jimmy versus Chuck, like why would that be compelling television? But it really was so good. I don't know. It's a really good show. Thomas Martinez, both shows suck. What are you talking about?
There's someone on the internet who's always going to say these things. So
wow.
That's
disappointing for Thomas in particular, though. Come on, Thomas.
The courtroom battery scene is still like that. Yes. That was the scene where I was like, I don't know about this Saul show, and that was the one where I was like, okay, this is really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Did you guys see the hint at a certain thing in Miss Marvel? I didn't watch the whole show. I just know that particular part.
What was at a certain thing?
If you haven't seen it, then you don't know. But
no, Alex hasn't watched it. I watched it, but.
I did watch. I watched Thor 4 this week. That was decent.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that's all right.
It's fine. I liked it. Like I think it was obviously a step back from Ragnarok, right? But I think Ragnarok, you just had better character development from like the side characters, right? Like I think you really got more of a development for Valkyrie and stuff like that, as opposed to this one, which was so focused in on Thor and Jane Foster. So. Yeah, I still liked it. I mean, people were talking to me last night about about it like it was complete trash, that it was as bad as the second Thor movie or other things like that. I
God,
thought it was a
no.
good movie, but it definitely
Yeah.
was not like a top tier Marvel movie, which is fine. Like not everything can be Infinity War and Black Panther and stuff
Right.
like that.
Step up from Doctor Strange too, though.
I kind of like Doctor Strange more because it was kind of
Really?
yeah.
But like they make so many mistakes in that. Like the Illuminati ended up being nothing, and I don't know. Like
I think it's like if that were the real Illuminati, like the one that we're going to maybe actually get, then yeah. But I just think it's like,
and I didn't like Scarlet Witch. I don't know. I was outside looking in on that one. I thought that the other Phase 4 villains have been better. Now Thor 4 kind of like underutilizes Christian Bale, which I didn't like. They kind of just use it as, like,
tragically
a throwaway villain, which
Yes,
is like, okay,
absolutely.
you got Christian Bale to finally do a Marvel movie, and you use him for that.
But he was great
So-
when he was on.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
He was
so good.
that that part when they're, I mean, I don't want to spoil too much, but when he's fighting the three of them and he like has them all like tied up, I was just like,
Yeah.
damn, this guy is something else.
Yeah, he was owning it.
Yeah, it looks like a couple people obviously pointing to, okay, now I know what reference you're talking about, Tyler, for Miss Marvel. So yeah, should be good.
Yeah, The Boys is good. Some people are pointing out that's a good superhero show for sure.
So The Boys is worth watching then, right?
Oh yeah, it's definitely worth.
Okay.
I mean, okay, you watch Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I just
so there's
haven't
a
watched
certain level-
I haven't watched any of the Boys stuff because it's on Amazon Prime, and
yeah.
I'm just like waiting until football season starts to like get the Prime Video and download it and stuff like that. So I have not watched the Boys yet.
I've read some of the Boys comics. I haven't actually watched the show, although I've like seen scenes on YouTube and clips and stuff like that.
Sure.
The only thing I'll say is different from the comics is like the show is clearly going in like a Homelander is Trump kind of direction versus the comics don't really go in that way. But I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a big rated R superhero show.
Yeah.
This newest season starts out with someone shrinking small, walking into someone's ding dong, and then exploding. So that's the kind of show that you're in for.
All right.
But to me, the best show on TV that I've seen so far is Barry. I think people need to watch
Barry's
a
awesome.
lot more.
I love Barry.
So good. 14 Emmy nominations this year. Watch it.
Yeah. Okay, so talk very hated and disgusted by anything to do with meth. That's understandable.
I get it.
Renee asking me if I'm going to a hockey game. I still haven't decided if I'm a Kings fan or not. So TBD.
What is
I
the
want to like
debate?
actually. I don't know. Like I want to like learn about these teams before I just decide like who I'm going with. You know.
Should we do a thing on the show? You know how they do like the ESPN signing day where they have like 3 hats on the table. Should we just do that with like all the hats for Steven's NHL team selection?
That would be funny. But so Brooke's brother is super into the Blues. His wife was from St. Louis, and so Brooke kind of wants to keep that in the family, if you will, and like just kind of hop on the same train. I'm kind of intrigued by becoming a Seattle Kraken fan just because they're new. I really like their logo and their colors. They're not good yet, so I wouldn't feel like I'm a bandwagon like hopping on a traditional team or traditional powerhouse. And then obviously the Kings are like they're our local team here, and obviously they do the Chargers night and things like that. So that's where I'm leaning, but I want to learn more about these teams first and foremost.
I have that, and I don't support the team. I don't. I just like. Well, I do like if they win, that's great. But I don't know anything
I know
about hockey,
somebody in one of my tweets like tagged you and was like, Tyler has the Kings jersey, like just be a Kings fan. And I was like, I don't think Tyler's a super into hockey.
No, it was just free.
It was free. Wow.
I used to watch a lot of hockey as a kid, but then recent seasons I've just been like, okay, I'll watch the playoffs. But like that's kind of where I've been on the sport, just because like Well, also when I was a kid, like the Sixers were incredibly dormant and no one cared about them. But yeah, so yeah, hockey also got weird during like COVID and all that stuff because I feel like it was just hard to get people like motivated for hockey without fans in particular. So yeah, it's kind of back on the rebound now, but I'll be curious to see how the season plays out.
Absolutely. Steven, who asked the question about the preseason, also sent a super chat, so appreciate it. What else?
Someone said Steven looks like Carl Urban's character from The Boys. I don't really see it, not nearly as much as the Kyle Vanoy comp, but other than they have a beard and they're white.
They have a beard.
That's it.
White dudes with a beard.
That's the bar. Yeah, that's the bar that I'm figuring out.
Steven comparisons.
Even though Kyle Vanoy and Michael Wilhite are technically African Americans, but it's all good.
Hey, just go stand out in that 109-degree sun, and
Hey, I did get a little tan down in Newport last weekend, so
awesome.
Pedro Ramirez wants to know which games we are planning to go to. Tyler's a season ticket holder, so unless he's selling tickets for a game or two, he'll be there for at least 7 of them, I would guess, right?
Yeah, I'll have to look at which ones fall on which days. Like, I'll try to go to all of them. Some I maybe just won't be able to because of holiday stuff. But yeah, I'll be there. Like, I'll be there on the Sunday or whatever game it is against the Rams on New Year's Eve or day. So I'll be there for most of them.
Yeah, I really want to go to the home opener. Obviously, we're still kind of on hold for our house, so I don't really know if I'm even going to be able to make it to training camp. We're kind of waiting on getting our closing date for our house, and then I can figure out what I want to do. But I'll get to at least 2 games this year for sure. I just have to figure out which ones. There's a strong chance, in my opinion, that the Utes are playing in the Rose Bowl again, which happens to be on January 2nd this year, as opposed to January 1st. So getting to go to Chargers, Rams, and then see the Utes in the Rose Bowl again would be amazing. So fingers crossed there.
Maybe Oregon will make the Rose Bowl, so then you don't have to worry about it.
No. I think it'll be Utah. I think it'll be Utah or USC. I don't think Oregon has that chance this year, personally.
Okay. We'll see.
Richard wants to know, anyone go to Chargers at Falcons? None of the 3 of us. I know Alex is going to be in the Caribbean for football season. So if I'm going to a road game this year, it probably would be the Cardinals game because it's super cheap and easy to get to from here. And it'd be a fun game overall.
If I were to go to a game, it would probably be the Rams game, if that does happen. Maybe.
Yeah. Ooh, the Niners are only like 2.5 hour drive from here. Maybe I'll go to that one. But that one's a Sunday night game, huh?
Yeah, it is.
That means I would have to drive.
What week is that? Is
after.
that week 6 or 7? I don't remember.
The Niners game's after the bye, isn't it? Or like a couple games after the bye.
Is it?
I wanted to say like 8 or 9.
Okay.
Yeah, like start of the second half.
Wait, when is Chargers Falcons?
That's after the Niners game.
Are we sure Mariota's still going to be the starter if it's not Desmond Ridder? I don't know. Probably not.
Is that where Ridder ended up? God,
yeah, Ridder's in Atlanta.
Okay.
The Falcons roster is
yeah.
It's so weird though, because like the good players that they do have are elite at their position. Like they either have AJ Terrell, Grady Jarrett, Kyle Pitts, or like Kyle just Pitts. Complete trash.
Yeah.
And Drake London. Okay.
Ooh.
You're right.
The next Keenan Allen. I would say Ritter's starting by then, probably.
I would too, yeah. So we'll get games against Jacoby Brissett, Desmond Ridder. I don't need to check the schedule again.
We got one against Jerome Ford's Browns.
Just Wildcat.
And we'll have Dearness Johnson on the team by them, so we'll get a Dearness Johnson revenge game.
I hope so.
He's probably getting cut. No,
I don't know. I don't know any Browns sources that have a knowledge of that either way. But
imagine cutting Dearness Johnson and we have to like keep Roundtree and Kelly. Like they get to cut Johnson and we're like, Roundtree.
I know that graphic. I know it wasn't Arjun that made it, but I saw it because of Arjun.
yeah,
Where it was like the running back success rate of like missed tackles forced and yards after contact, and the whole like upper right quadrant was like Jonathan Taylor and then all of the Browns running backs.
Yeah.
So Falcons is week 9, Niners is week 10. So Falcons is right after the bye, and then Niners after that.
I had this exact question. Alex, do you pronounce it Caribbean or Caribbean? Caribbean?
Yeah.
Do they pronounce it Caribbean?
Yeah, I would say they also pronounce it Caribbean.
How island is your island?
Pretty island.
How island is your island? Are you asking if they like don't speak English there or what?
I mean, they speak
Well, no,
English.
I'm just curious, like how, you know.
I mean, they speak English, but it's like a you could think of it as like a Jamaica type situation where they speak English, but it is like they actually do have like some British English like in their language because it is a British territory actually. But yeah, so I mean they have accents and they speak English differently, but it is English. It's not like a Dominican Republic situation where like the main language is Spanish. I don't think many people in the island speak Spanish, so
They probably speak like Creole kind of.
Yeah, there is some of that actually.
Okay. So do I say it wrong? I say Caribbean.
I don't think you say it wrong. I just always
Okay.
have said Caribbean, but it's not like one's wrong and one's right. That's just what I've said.
It's Disney's fault. Pirates of the
It is
Caribbean,
Disney's
like,
fault. It is.
Yeah. Everything's Disney's fault.
According to who you ask, it is. I saw that ESPN Plus is raising their prices this year. That is Disney's fault.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to cancel that real quick after these Fowler articles come out.
I know. It's gonna go from $6.99 to $9.99.
I'll cancel it and then get it again when the Australian Open comes.
Oh, is that how you watch the tennis matches?
Yeah, because it's on ESPN and the Australian Open starts at like ungodly times at 3 or 4 a.m. So I just use the ESPN Plus to watch like replays.
There you go.
All right, people, send in some questions.
No, we need some more questions here.
Football related. Who's the leader of the Avengers now?
I don't care.
Wow.
If you make the leader of the Avengers Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, I will care.
I was gonna say, I feel like Tom Holland is eventually gonna be that guy. Maybe.
Could you take orders from him?
No,
I don't know. I mean, Doctor Strange is like the only adult, like relevant Avenger at this point, right?
I think Cumberbatch just said he's not the leader of the Avengers. Maybe it's Wong.
Maybe it's Wong.
I'd be down for that.
I liked Wong's development in the recent Doctor Strange. That was a fun little subplot.
Yeah, he's the Sorcerer Supreme, man.
Yeah.
Who's not good at his job.
So what are they setting? Because Shang-Chi, at the end of Shang-Chi, right? Like he meets Wong. I'm curious to see where they take that. And apparently they're doing another Eternals movie, which I am not super excited about.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like different like sub parts of the Marvel universe that are like in their own group. Like obviously we're getting, I don't want to say obviously, I don't want to ruin it, but you know, there's certain parts of like, you know, they're setting up like the Teen Avengers, they're setting up, you know, X-Men and mutants and things like that. So I'm just curious to see like how this all comes together, or if it comes together at all.
I think my biggest problem with Phase 4 so far has been like lack of an end goal. Like, because they're sort of setting up like 3, 4, 5 things, but they don't really have like one thing they're building to. Like obviously for phases 1 through 3, it was, you know, Thanos and that whole thing. So yeah, I just don't know what they're really building up to now, but that's why you have 10 spin-off TV shows and 8 movies a year now.
Yeah, it's really confusing because we have like this intergalactic celestial gods, you know, sort of battle, but then we also have Kang, apparently also an Ant-Man at some point, but now we're introducing X-Men, or kind of, but you know, but maybe there's Fantastic Four in there, so it's like,
If you can tell
it's
that
hard to figure
conversation,
out.
I'm not much of a Marvel person. But
somebody mentioning Captain Marvel as the leader of the Avengers. Carol Danvers is the most boring character in the Marvel universe, so that's a hard no for me.
Are they making another one of those?
They are, yes.
Yeah, the Marvels.
Great.
So her, Miss Marvel, and Photon.
I'll be sure to catch that opening weekend.
That's Rambo's character, right?
Yeah, her daughter or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, the daughter from WandaVision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so could be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Steven wanted to know, did Fowler drop the OT rankings? Yes, he did, and Rashawn Slater was 4th, baby. They put some respect on the babyface bully's name, and I am all for it.
I need to look it up because I forget. So it was Trent, Lane.
It was Trent, Lane, and
7th.
Bakhtiari, I think.
Wait,
Lane was 7th.
Okay.
I thought I read it and he was 7th.
Let me
Oh,
Because-
dang. No, I thought he was.
So the reasoning for that was when I read the article, they put his like 2020 because he missed some of 2020 as well. So then he was out of the top 10, and then they put him back in the top 10. So when I saw it, I saw he was 7th, which seemed low. But yeah, I don't know. I would have assumed Lane was going to be in the top 5, but 7th is okay, I guess.
Oh wow. Because
Tyron
like
Smith
11
was-
pressures.
Yeah, he's Lane Johnson, but I don't know if like that's just like voter fatigue with him or whatever it is. But...
Well, Tyron Smith wasn't the same last year. I know, like pressure wise, he was fine, but I mean,
I also wonder.
I was not like super impressed with everything.
I also wonder if there's just like an effect where the Eagles have all of the offensive linemen, so then they just kind of take that away from Lane versus like I don't know, some of the top tier submissions are offensive lines.
So Trent was 1, which absolutely is right. Tristan Wirfs was 2. Mm-hmm. 3 was Bakhtiari. 4 Rashawn Slater. 5 Tyron Smith. 6 Laramie Tunsil. 7 Lane Johnson. 8 Ronnie Stanley. 9 Ryan Ramczyk. 10 Teron Armstead. And then honorable mentions was Orlando Brown, Panay Sewell, Jordan Mailata, Taylor Lewan, Colton Miller, and Taylor Moton, as well as Brian O'Neill.
Damn, Pipkins didn't get honorable mentions.
So, yeah, that's Laramie Tunsil and Ronnie Stanley for me would be significantly lower, especially Stanley. I mean, Stanley's played like 3 games in 3 years, so I guess 2 years.
Are you surprised that Slater was 4th, Steven?
I am surprised that he was top 4. Yes, I figured he would be 5, 6, 7. Because I figured that Lane Johnson and Tyron Smith would have like that veteran card. I figured Teron Armstead would be much higher, right? Because it's like, been there, done that. They're very consistent. So I am surprised that he was in the top 4, but I would have figured that he would have been in like the 5 to 7 range.
I feel like with offensive linemen in particular, just because there's not as much focus on like, oh, this guy hasn't won anything, right? Because offensive linemen like aren't like wide receivers or quarterbacks in that way. So I feel like the offensive lineman, like defensive lineman type rankings probably are a little bit more accurate to the consensus. I don't know.
So the Chargers, they're all their highest ranked guys. No one made it past 4th, right? Sherwood was 4th.
JC was 5th.
Joey was 4th.
Joey was 4th.
Yeah.
Justin was 7th. Rashawn was 4th.
Yeah, no one.
Huh.
And then Keenan, Austin.
Is there a
Eckler
position?
were
Is there a position
11th.
he hasn't done yet?
No, he did all of them now. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Offensive
he did tight
tackle
ends.
was the last one.
Yeah, he did tight ends. I forgot about
Yeah.
that.
So, I mean, we could do some like projections for next year. I think that'd be a fun little topic conversation for another day, maybe.
Possibly. We already have 2 positions sort of covered.
Yeah. Jed Jacob said, "What is the guard depth like after Hymas, and who is set up to be the backup center?" So, backup center, I think is Will Clapp. Yeah, I think that's pretty set in stone. Although obviously Brendan Hymas is he worked a little bit at the end of the season at center, which I think is smart, trying to diversify his role and his ability. Obviously Zion Johnson has taken snaps at center, so if you feel better about like if anything happens to Corey Linsley, you move Zion to center and then you put in Hymas or Salyer at guard. You could certainly do that. Although based off of what they've done in the past, I think if anything happens to Linsley, they would just put Clapp in and then keep everything else the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just my interpretation of the situation.
Yeah. Clapp for backup center.
And then Hymas and Sawyer will be the backup guards.
Mm-hmm. It's not bad. I feel good about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so the babyface bully thing, I have to give a shout out to Craig Smith. He was the one who first coined that term, and I loved it for Rashawn Slater. So I have continued to say that. So shout out to Craig.
Yeah, babyface only topped by Isaiah Spiller for babyest face. He looks like
honestly, Isaiah Spiller looks like he's still like 16, 17 years old.
I don't know why. Maybe it's I don't know.
I guess this is a good time to maybe talk about the Orlando Brown situation. Obviously, he turned down a 6-year deal, which was a higher APY and signing bonus than what the Niners gave Trent Williams. So it is a little crazy, but my guess is that the way that the contract aged was not necessarily the way that Orlando Brown and his team liked. But how did you guys kind of interpret this situation?
I also don't think he got 90+ million guaranteed. They probably did something like the first 2 years were guaranteed and then maybe like half guaranteed the third year. That's like kind of what it sounds like. I don't know. I mean, I don't think they're going to let it linger into the season. Obviously, like they didn't reach the deal, but if I had to guess, I would still say Orlando Brown plays week 1. I don't think he's going to turn it into a Melvin Gordon situation, especially with just, I don't know how much the Chiefs need him to an extent on that offensive line. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I think a lot of people, like, whenever a big contract offer comes out like that, it's just like, oh, he's crazy to turn that down. But then you realize like NFL money is imaginary money compared to the NBA and the MLB.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what the specifics of that contract were, but we'll kind of see what happens going into next year and how that situation plays out in camp.
Yeah, I saw Brad Spielberger from PFF and a bunch of other cap guys kind of talking about it. And essentially the way that they heard the contract was structured would be like a 4-year, $19 million per year contract, which I think is completely fair for Orlando Brown. I think that's objectively where he should stand in that contract world, if you will, because paying him like legitimately more than Trent Williams is a huge mistake in my opinion.
Yeah.
But by all means, Chiefs, go ahead and do that. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I think when we talk about these like record-breaking numbers, it is kind of like wide receiver or safety, right? Where we've been talking about with Derwin James and Jesse Bates and all those guys, where it's just like the next guy gets paid more, right? And I think that's kind of the expectation of Orlando Brown. I don't think the Chiefs want to do that necessarily, but we'll see when push comes to shove what they'll do after the season. But I do just think that's how the market's supposed to work in a sense. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, the left tackle market in general is kind of set up in a way right now where it's like you have the top of the market, right, which are all the elite guys. You know, Trent Williams, David Bakhtiari, Laramie Tunsil, and Ronnie Stanley are all at 19 million plus. Really, there's kind of a big gap between Stanley and Tunsil. Stanley's at 19.75 and Tunsil's at 22. So there is that kind of built-in big gap. And then you look at Jake Matthews, Colton Miller, Cam Robinson, Garrett Bowles, although Cam Robinson's playing on that franchise tag, I think. They're at in between 17 and 18. So if you're paying $19 million a year for Orlando Brown, like, I think that's a fair deal where he would slot in. But like Alex is saying, right, like, you know, you're kind of looking at him just being the next guy and therefore being the most expensive guy. But I don't think Brown is. I don't think he's an elite tackle. Like, him being 11th essentially on the tackle ranking list is rich for me, to be honest. Tyler's looking something up, I can tell.
No, I was responding to a Raiders fan in the chat.
Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't look like he's doing. It looks like he's arguing.
I'm busy.
Okay.
I'm busy. I have to respond to
Okay.
Van City Raider, California.
There we go. Question from our guy Envy Talent. After hearing Babyfaced Bully, he asks which Charger, has the best nickname. So, I mean,
I like
the
Bash.
JT Woods has, yeah, there's Bash. JT Woods is the Heart Rate Kid, which I kind of hate. Herbie or Herb. There's Slayer.
No.
Slayer's a good one for Keenan. I'm trying to think of the other nicknames that are on the team.
Slayer's probably the best one. I feel like that's kind of unique to him. But like, I also think that just because the other nicknames are kind of bad.
And K9, I guess, is another. I
Hasn't
guess it
done
really
any-
depends.
Yeah,
Hasn't
that's
done
gotta
anything
retire.
Yeah.
Oh, Vato. That's a cool one.
Vato's a good one.
I mean, is Mike Dubb really a nickname?
Blockbusters.
That's just his W.
Hey man, I'll take Blockbusters over Jack Boys any day.
Jack Boys can go.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think Slayer would be my pick.
Big Bear's cool because it's like his brother's Little Bear or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
Herbert still doesn't have one.
Okay, now I'm seeing the response to the Raider guy. That was a good one, Tyler.
Thank you. Yes, I turned that into a mother comment. Tiller's got a good nickname. Bad. So that's a good one. So stupid.
Yeah, I'm so terrified of Chandler Jones. Ooh.
Is Dustin Hopkins the real D Hop?
For about 8 games, he will be,
Yeah.
I think. So
Yeah.
until he comes back, he's D Hop. Yeah, like also someone said like DJ for Derwin James. That's not a nickname. That's just his initials. Like that's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like don't force nicknames when they don't need to happen. Like that's how I felt about all of Herbert's nicknames. They just feel just let it come naturally if it does.
There was a really weird nickname that people were trying to make happen for Herbert, and it wasn't Herbie or Herb. It was another one.
It was so bad you forgot it apparently.
Yeah.
there's a lot of bad ones.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take one more question. So if you have a
Make it a
question
good
you've been
one.
waiting for us to get an answer, make it a good one, and then we'll head out for the day.
Make it a food related question, Chargers related question. Could be anything you want it to be.
All right, this Raider fan is going bye-bye. Yeah,
Good
Hollywood
Herbert
Herbert.
joke.
That was the one. I hated the Hollywood Herbert.
Yeah.
It's like that's not even him.
Yeah.
It goes against him. Lights Out
All right,
was a
one
good
more
one. Though,
question.
NBC
One more
Talent.
question.
Also,
Huh?
I think all Hollywood nicknames are retired after Hollywood Brown kind of, ruined it.
Gets you a solid trade deal, though.
Solid trade deal.
Swolbert.
Don't hate it.
Remember when that one reporter asked him if he still lifts during the season?
Yeah, imagine that being your annual question.
It's a good thing we're having an exodus of reporters at a time we're about to enter training camp.
I know.
Yeah, that's
There's
so
gonna be, like,
bizarre.
4 at training camp.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll still only read the exact same amount of people's articles, which is
Yep.
All right.
I don't know how
Someone
you
give
go
us a good question.
Give us a good question or a bad one.
If you don't ask us a question, we can't leave.
I feel like we've answered the one food type for the rest of our life.
Have we?
Before?
I don't remember if we did that or not.
Steven hates sushi, and I think that's outrageous.
Steven, you ate sushi? Wow.
I do. I'm a big texture guy, so the texture of a lot of sushi
Big
just
texture guy.
Why is that funny?
I don't know. Just like it's like
Oh,
a
it's
big-
funny.
I'm a big whatever guy, like big texture guy who says that. This is like when we did our quarterback rankings, and I tried so hard not to laugh. Like, Steven, you said bucket getter like 5 times. I'm like, where did this come from?
You never heard that phrase before?
No, I've heard it before, but like we came back from our break and you said it like 10 times in a show, and I was like, where did this come from? So it's like, so whenever you say like big blank guy, like texture is like the last thing I would want to be a guy for. I don't know. Texture.
I think texture matters a lot when you're eating food, man. Like, I think the problem with sushi for me is that like the good ones are really like, I mean, the good ones for me, like that are cooked, because I can't eat raw fish. I can't. The good ones are like mushy, and I don't like eating mushy food.
Mm.
So, I guess this is where we're ending up. The answer for me is Mexican food, because I can have good breakfast food. I can have, they have their form of sandwiches, tacos. They can do salads. If they give me a fajita salad every once in a while. So the answer for me is Mexican food.
Are we just saying like culturally?
All the kind of food? Oh.
Like specifically, like, do I have to choose tacos for like every meal, or?
Or yeah, are we saying one like food that we would eat, or is it like Mexican, Italian, Japanese, whatever? Like, are we just saying one group?
Thomas, are you asking cultural food, or like specifically like sandwiches, tacos, pizza?
Please clarify. This is incredibly important.
Okay, in the interim, Alex, what's the best style of pizza? I know you're kind of passionate about this.
New York pizza is the best type of pizza by far. It's not close.
I would
Not Chicago or Detroit. I hate those ones.
Chicago pizza.
What's Detroit pizza?
Detroit pizza is
you
where
get
they put the
shot when you're
sauce on
done?
top.
Yeah,
So it's
What?
very similar like
It's like-
structure
it's like
to
Chicago
Chicago, but they
pizza,
put the
but-
sauce on top.
it's like Chicago
Okay.
pizza, but somehow worse. Chicago pizza is just categorically not pizza; it's a casserole. So
Yeah.
like it's
fair.
it's not cooked. Like why would you want uncooked pizza? No.
Okay, Thomas he's dropping the ball here. There's a preseason question.
He said
Ooh,
one ethnic group type. He just said it.
preseason cut from another
So ethnic
team.
group type Mexican for me.
Oh, Italian by far.
Okay. Italian? Oh my god, I'd be
Yeah.
just fat and oh my god.
Well, if you
good.
work out, it will work for you. If you don't, then yeah, you're gonna look like Tony Soprano. But I mean,
What do you eat for Italian breakfast?
shit, I'll
Leftovers.
yeah, pasta, pizza,
Cold spaghetti, baby.
Bro, I'll have pizza.
You're having spaghetti and meatballs for breakfast?
Steven, I'm a college student. I eat pizza for breakfast quite often. So I've eaten pizza for breakfast since I was 5. I could eat pizza, pasta, anything. Chicken
That's
parm for breakfast,
That's
I would do it.
Yeah. I guess Asian food for me then, which seems like an on-brand no surprise, but there's so many like technically
Okay,
Indian
but,
food
like-
classifies as Asian food.
Are you doing Japanese, Chinese,
Japanese food.
Indian? Japanese.
Not
okay.
Indian food. No, it sounds
I
horrific.
can't
for the
eat.
rest
I
of my
can't eat
life.
Indian food. I can't do it.
You don't like
I-
Indian food either? What Asian food do you
Damn,
like?
do you just hate the whole continent of Asia?
Yeah, tell me more about Asia, Steven. What do you like about the
I
continent?
like Japanese food. I like grilled chicken
He's a big
and
China
rice
guy.
and things like that. I'm a big China guy. Like I go to Asian restaurants, man. I just don't order sushi.
He's a big PF Chang's guy.
I like the F Chang's.
It's fine.
Oh my gosh. Do we want to even answer this serious question now?
Sure.
No.
I don't know. Boston Scott.
Dearness Johnson, I already gave mine.
Yeah, running backs, please. Running backs cut from other teams come play for the Chargers. That's the answer.
I don't have anybody. Taron Johnson.
Is he gonna get cut? Do you think? I don't even know.
What team is Tyron Johnson on? Is he
He's
still
still on the Raiders.
He's still
Raiders,
there.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would do it.
Or was he like a futures contract, or was he like an actual contract?
I think he's a training camp deal. I would imagine. So like a 1 year, effectively.
All right.
Cortez
Wow.
Broughton.
Ooh,
Just bring back all the old guys.
all the old Chargers that we didn't want to get cut
Yeah.
last year. Is Michael Badgley still on a team?
He's on the
Good
Colts.
question.
Yeah.
Is he
Oh, he is.
starting for the Colts though, or is he like competing for a job?
He started last year because
Yeah,
I forget his name, but Goggles was hurt.
Blankenship.
Yeah, thank you. So I think they'll have like an actual competition, but Isaac Rochelle probably a cut candidate. He still owes us signed helmets, by the way.
Yeah,
That has to be-
yeah.
Please add Isaac Rochelle on Twitter and ask him about the helmets.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh. Oh, do we think that alternate helmet thing is gonna happen?
I hope so, man. I,
hope so.
really do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an easy decision for them, right? Like, just make a navy helmet and they'll crush it.
What would be a helmet color? Because navy is the obvious one. What would be one that would work that was not navy? Like, trying to think of one. that
Other
would,
than
like-
ones they already have too. And what colors do we have left?
Yellow helmet with yellow,
Helmets,
jersey,
yeah.
yellow pants.
Thomas Martinez pointed out Bobby Holly. Yeah, bring in Bobby Holly from the USFL. Let's do it. Xander could be RB3.
There was a guy from the USFL from the Philly team that got signed by the Washington football team. I saw that he was like a corner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw. So there's guys getting signed from there. So I'll be curious if the Chargers pick up like one or
The
two.
Chargers, the Chargers could do a royal blue helmet. I think that would look really good too.
Ooh, that would look really good.
Because they, like, the Fouts era was a royal blue helmet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I almost would prefer them to do like a retro-y kind of all look. So that'd be fun. All right, well, that's going to do it for us today. So we are going to go live tomorrow morning for our usual Sunday episode. So we'll tweet that out in a little bit here. Appreciate all the questions today. Appreciate the super chats. Hopefully you guys enjoy your Saturday, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.